Hello friends, and welcome to Figure Study, where I got the thing. I managed to get my hands on a DX Don Onitaijin set from whatever this Sentai is called. As some people watching this may be aware, this set is essentially the first Japanese-designed Sentai mech that was designed with articulation in mind, and specifically the DX ones. I know the Super Mini Plus and all that are very articulated, but this set has actual, like, decent, if not good, articulation in the robot mode. It's definitely leagues above anything that is normally included with other DX Sentai mecha that come out of Japan. This set is really interesting, and it looks pretty good too. I do kind of want to go in and do some adjustments and some painting on my own. Wotafa did a bunch of work on one of these sets, which you can check out up there, and it looks amazing. I kind of want to try doing something like that, to a degree. I don't think I'll be able to get it to look as good as he did, but we'll see. Also, I will say, going into it, I did do the thigh mod, which you can check out in that Wotafa video I just linked already. The short version is the thigh rotation on both the red guy here and, by extension, the combined mech. It's there and it's not bad, but the problem is it's got very, very big detents. So you're either stock straight or way out to the side. And so the trick is to go in and carve little notches into a couple of spots in the kind of detented section on the inner thigh. And by doing that, it allows it to stop in an extra spot, so you get a little bit more in terms of possible clicks, because that ratchet is way too strong for you to be able to kind of cheat it. You can cheat the arms, you can cheat the hips, but you cannot cheat that thigh rotation. That is the only real modification I've made on this figure so far. So other than that, everything is stock, and it is pretty darn cool. Now, since we've got everyone together, let's just talk about size. These are DX Sentai mech toys, so they are all pretty big. Obviously red is the biggest one, but yellow and black, in terms of their overall size, pretty darn big. And yeah, I don't know what any of these are called, so I'm just going to refer to them by their colors. Now, where to begin? Well, let's start at the bottom and work our way up. How about that? Black is a kind of robot doggo, and looks good. There's some nice molding here. I like the contours in most of it. The front is definitely very, very boxy, but I do like a lot of the contour lines and shapes in the body in terms of like what's going on the sides and towards the back. I also think it's kind of fun how he's got a tail that can actually wag. There's some nice shape on the legs, which do move. You can get a little bit of forward and backward motion on both the front and back legs. It's not necessary to move the front legs at all for transformation, but you can move them just in terms of like general posing. It's not great because it's, ratcheted, so it only goes so far. You cannot move the head, which kind of stinks. I kind of wish, and I feel like they could have worked in a head turn there, because there is this sort of semicircular channel that the head kind of tucks into. I feel like they probably could have engineered it so that the head could turn left and right, but they didn't. Though, speaking of that head, and this is a thing I'm going to be talking about in all of them, but I love how they've got these over-the-top cat-eye sunglass visors on all of them. It is ridiculous and campy, and I absolutely love it. And Black's head is a dog thing with those little glasses and like little eyebrows almost at the top, which is kind of cute. And the silver muzzle, and it looks good. It could do with a little bit more paint detailing. It's not something that I really would have noticed before watching Wotafa's video where he added paint, but it's fine for what it is. Now, because of how basic all of these are, I'm just going to transform them on camera, no cutaway or anything like that. So, the black here, just rotate this section down. You can probably already see where this is going. Rotate the back legs up, and then the tail section folds up to make a foot. And there we've got a leg, and that tail waggle now becomes an ankle tilt. That's kind of fun. So yeah, that is black all taken care of. Next we move on to yellow, and her design is fun. I think this is a neat design. I like the big spiky shoulder pads. I do wish there was more color or some kind of color differential going on in the shoulder pads, but I can paint that myself. And looking at what Watafa did, I think if I went in there with some gunmetal and painted some of the details, that would look really nice. But there's some really nice molding and detailing all throughout this figure, in particular around the midsection. It's got this really interesting plated armor look, along with this kind of studded belt going around the sides, and it looks really neat. This figure is an absolute brick, except you can actually turn the head, so there's that, but you can technically wiggle the arms up and down if you want, so that's really all you can do. You can bring both legs up, that's all that can do, but then you can rotate the head. Again, you've got those big stylized cat eye glasses slash visor, and that looks really fun. You got the big horns on top that kind of set this one apart from the others. And I like how they all have that weird sunglasses theme, but they are all distinct in their overall shape and design. Like they do have the obvious cat eye look, but there are differences and nuances when it comes to the actual shape of the glasses. Now to transform Yellow, you want to bring the arms down and push them in, like so. You want to fold up the legs, and they'll just tuck into the back, and then fold up the heel. And then for the head, you want to unpeg it so it'll slide back. So you can see it kind of does the Night of the Roxbury thing. Rotate it around 180 degrees, peg it back in on this side, and then push it down. That will click into place, and that is Yellow as a leg. And real quick, grabbing black, I like how they reposition the head on Yellow so that both of them are at about this, like both of the heads on Yellow and black are on the same level once you transform it. I think that's a neat little touch. All right, let's move on to Blue, just because. And Blue is a gorilla. This may be an homage to Go Busters, I don't know. But I mean, it's a blue gorilla. I feel like that may be the point. And from what I understand, there's a fair bit of homaging that's been going on in the later seasons of Super Sentai, so that may have been the intention. But it looks pretty good. The fur detail kind of looks a little bit like cottage cheese, just in terms of the molding, but it's cool that it's there. There is some really nice molded detail along the backs of the gorilla legs, too. Unfortunately, there is no paint on the backs of the legs, no paint on the shoulders, no paint on the fists. Those are just separate totems of plastic. So the only colors you get really that are painted are the silver on the forearms and possibly the face. It's hard to tell if that's actually silver or molded in a silverish plastic. I think it might be molded in silverish plastic. Gorilla is not painted super great, but again, I could do more on my own. But there's a lot of really nice detail in here that would have been cool if they did actually pick that detail out, like the pipes along the forearms. There's a lot of nice detail on the back of the gorilla. There's a lot of like pipe and mechanical detail on the legs that could have looked good if they had painted it, but for what it is, it's fine. This guy also has a little bit of articulation. The legs can go backwards and forwards. The arms, since these will become the combined mode arms, are actually fairly well articulated. You've got forward, backward, in and out, bicep rotation, elbows, which for the individual mech mode, the elbows are going the other way, but you do have elbows. You've got all jointed wrists, and then the fingers open and close. So you've got a decent amount of articulation in the arms. And then the head is on a ball joint, so you can actually get the gorilla to look up and down, left and right, and kind of rotate. Now, for the transformation, you want to take those abs out, which can be a little tricky because of the geometry, but if you move an arm out of the way, it's a lot easier. So just pop the abs out. There's a little clip there, a little post thingy there. That's how that goes in. So put the abs off to the side is a weird sentence, but that's what I just said. Split the gorilla in half, which is another weird sentence. Starting with this half, you want to bring the leg up, rotate the bicep around, and I believe for the official transformation, you want to rotate the bicep so that you've got the bicep curler arms. So I'm going to do it stock to start, but know that you can completely rotate the bicep and the wrist so that you get proper elbows. For the other arm, it is exactly the same, except got to do something with the gorilla head. The gorilla head is on this multi-jointed armature. So what you want to do is bring that up and over and in, and then bring the gorilla head back, and that gives you the gorilla head kind of peeking forward from that shoulder. As tends to be the case with most pinks in most sets, is probably the least interesting in terms of functionality. It's just a stick with wings on it. It doesn't really do anything. You can kind of tilt the head up and down if you want, and you can kind of fake it by looking to the right, but then it like breaks up the sculpt since it's fierce. So really you can just look up and down. You can move the wings all the way down. They just kind of lock in place here and here. And that's about all you can do with pink in terms of posability, but the deco is pretty nice. I actually kind of like the translucent pink that they added for the tops of the wings and the top section of the body. And again, in Watafa's video, he took some like reflective paper and kind of put it inside the wings to give it kind of a Kiramiger, I think, look, and I think that looked really cool. I kind of wish they had done that officially on this set, but oh well. But again, kind of a simple thing. You don't really get to do anything with it, but I like the pink painted wingtips. The tail has some nice tampographing on the side, and I think the translucent pink is cool, but because it's translucent pink on gray, it dulls the effect of that translucent plastic a bit. I feel like if what was underneath it was brighter, it would make that pop a lot better. And now the head is, once again, it's got the cat eye glasses. They're a bit more pointed on the bird, and also actually have these bits going in on the sides that give it more of like a feathered look, which works because it's a bird. Also, I forgot to mention it, but for the gorilla's eyes, it's, again, same basic shape, but they're much more rounded, which I think kind of works with all the round shapes on the gorilla itself. To transform pink, you want to pop the tail off and split the tail in half, and these chunks go off to the side. And then you want to split pink in half entirely, and then these bits will fold up and clip together, and then this bit comes down, and there's that. And you mostly do the same thing with this half. You know, bring these up, clip them together, bring this down, but there's a little bit more you do with the head. You want to rotate this armature. I'll show you here so you can see the armature. You rotate that down. Once you rotate that down, you rotate this stalk down and then rotate the head up. So you've got something like this, with the head pointing forward. Now Red is the most complete kind of standalone action figure of the bunch. The articulation's a bit limited with Red because the stuff that carries over to the combined mode is all going down the center. The arms do not transfer over in terms of any kind of articulation, so the arms kind of suck. The rest of it, pretty well articulated, which we'll get into in a second, and this guy has an interesting design. I do like the points that you've got. Like, you've got this kind of star-shaped chest that goes out to the side and forms these points at the top. The shoulders follow that shape and point in the same direction. The little bits coming off of the forearms go that way. So it all kind of comes together from the torso to the shoulder to the forearm, and it all comes to like this same point going off in the same direction, which I think is pretty cool. And similarly, you get the same effect with the visor up there. The coloring is pretty nice. There's some nice separation here. You've got some paint going on in the hip skirts, a little bit of paint in the forearms and chest, and of course the head. But it is pretty basic when you get to like the legs and stuff, which is fine. Could be better, but it's fine. I really like that head though. I love how unnecessarily pronounced those sunglasses are. They're just so far out there. It's absurd, but I love it. It also has that metallic pink upside down heart, or peach, I think. Maybe it's supposed to be a peach. I think that's thematic to the show in some way. But yeah, I think the head on this guy is really cool. It's also kind of fun how he's got this piston gear top knot on the back of his head. It's a weird look, but one that I really like. Now, the articulation for Red is better than the others, but again, the arms kind of suck. So the head can tilt up and down and look left and right. It's not on a ball joint, so you don't get any tilt, but that's still a lot of motion for a Sentai mech head. The arms are almost completely useless because there's no forward and backward motion, no inward and outward motion from the shoulder, just because of the way it transforms. There's no bicep rotation, no fist rotation, which is fine. You can angle the arms back because of the transformation. It works like a butterfly joint, but I don't know. I don't think that really accomplishes much. You can see from the back here, this is why there's no shoulder rotation, because it's just one big plastic stick going from the arm into the body where it connects and does that rotation. So yeah, it's a little bit of a shame. You get waist rotation, which is ratcheted. You do get one click forward on the hip, and 1 click back on the hip. They cannot go in and out. They're stuck in this position with them spread out slightly. And then for the outward motion, that is what the outward motion is normally like. But with the modification, you can do a kind of halfway click, which I think looks much better, much more standard, semi-dynamic. I just think that looks better. But we'll see it more pronounced in the combine mode. Then you get a 90-degree knee bend, and you can also bend the toe. Though, because of the way this guy is built, you're not really going to get much out of that articulation. It's really all in service of the combine mode. Speaking of, let's get to that. So, to start with transforming this guy, we're going to come around to the back and remove this helmet. Put that off to the side. And then bring these arms up like we did before and fold them around to the back so that they stick off like a big old backpack. When it comes to this orientation, this is fine. This is the stock orientation. But if you wanted to, you do have room to bring the arms down. And it doesn't do much, but if you notice, well, do this one. It doesn't do much, but if you notice with this arm out and this arm in, it gives you just a little bit more space. Like it brings the arms in comparatively ever so slightly more and brings the weight down slightly. So it distributes the weight and mass a little bit differently in the back. That could be helpful for balance or fitting them on a shelf, depending on the situation, in some very specific circumstances. And lastly, you just fold down the toes, and that's it. And this guy can just kind of rest here while I grab the legs. So here we've got black and yellow, and as you would expect, they pull a Voltron. You just jam the legs into the holes at the top, and they click into place and hold really well. And there we've got legs for our combined mode, all set to go. Now for blue and pink. What you want to do is you want to take the arm with the gorilla head and the wing without the bird head and combine them. There's a post on the back of the gorilla leg and a clip on the back of the bird section, and those clip together and give you the combined arm. And you can also take one of the swords. Spoilers, I guess, but yeah, it's totally a sword. And there's a peg hole at the bottom of the gorilla foot that this just pegs into. And that gives you the completed arm. For the right side, it's the same deal. You can attach the sword and attach the wing section together. And what I think is really cool about this, which I'll talk more about in the combine mode, but the bird head acts as the head in lieu of the gorilla head on the other arm. Now there is a series of this kind of U-shaped clip system on the inside of each arm, and there is a U-shaped peg system on the torso. So you just line that up, clip that in on each side, and that gives him his, get that wing out of the way, and that gives him his arms. Now we're almost done. Last thing we want to do is, last couple of things we want to do is pull up the torso. And what that does is when you slide this up, you'll notice this little section in the midriff that pulls up and reveals a clip. That's where the abs come in. You want to clip the abs into that section. And when you push this back down, there's this little nubbin up in here that was covering up that clip. That gets pushed up, and you'll see it opens these doors on the torso. So there you can see the circular shape inside the torso. Push this down, and now you get this kind of peach blossom lotus thing that's revealed. It pertains to the show in some fashion, I don't know, but it's a cool little gimmick. I'll give it that. And lastly, take the helmet. The helmet goes on top of Red's head, and when you push it down, it makes the visor pop up and reveals the combined mode face, or eyes. And that is DX Onitaijin, I don't know how you pronounce it, but that's this. And this thing is large. I know I normally save the size stuff towards the end, but this thing's very big. It's bigger than most standalone Sentai mechs, but this is bigger than some fully combined forms, like ultimate combined forms. This thing is very tall, especially if you factor in the standards / knives at the top of the shoulders. This is a big fellow. Very cool, but very big. Now, in terms of the design, I do think that this guy's pretty neat. I like the color separation and how in the lower body, you've got the standard Sentai thing where yellow's on one side, black is on the other. But then when you get to the upper body, it splits it out more evenly, where you've got red in the center, but then blue and pink are both a part of the arms. So I just think that's an interesting way to distribute the individual mecha in this instance. I know there are other Sentai mechs that have similarly interesting ways to distribute stuff, but I think this is cool. I love this, and the main thing I love about Don Onitaijin's design, the main thing that really drew me to this and made me want to get this thing, despite it being remarkably hard to track down because I missed that initial pre-order window and HLJ closed off pre-orders. Incidentally, for anyone wondering, I got this one from Hobby Search. I just kept refreshing the page every day or so, and one day I checked it and they had one in stock and I grabbed it. The main thing that drew me to this design is the fact that I really love how not only do all of the different characters that are represented in the combined mode have those funky, absurd, but wonderful cat's eye sunglasses kind of motif going, but you get every single face on display in the combined mode. It's ridiculous, but I love how ridiculous it is. It really leans into that ridiculousness where they've all got this one really weird design element that's kind of silly, but also really charming. And it's just, let's go even harder. So we've got face, 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 and then of course, face for the fully combined mode that is also the same head that we saw with Red before, just with the visor lifted up. But I really love that element to it. It's so ridiculous and so wonderful. Detail-wise, there's really nothing new on display here. The only new detail, really, that is revealed for the combined mode is the design in the chest, because those doors open up as part of the gimmick, and the full revealed face of Red. I'm fine with it. It's just like, yeah, you don't really get any new detail here. I mean, I guess technically some of the detail is new in the sense that this was the back of yellow, and the lower part of the leg here was the underside of black. And also the way that these shoulders come in, they kind of complete this shape just in front of the knee. You know, really, it's all been visible before, just around the back or underside or whatever. So, since the articulation is the main highlight of this figure, let's start moving to that a little bit faster. So, looking at the head is really cool. I like how the kind of samurai motif helmet comes down and turns the sunglasses that were on Red into more of a head crest. And the revealed face is suitably imposing, I guess. I also like that because of the way that this thing transforms, you don't have the problem that we got with a lot of previous Sentai mechs in that the combined mode head is weirdly tiny compared to the rest of the body. Here, I think it works better. Maybe still a little bit small in relative comparison to the rest of the body, but that's more because the rest of the body is just friggin' huge. But it doesn't feel like you've got a tiny little pin sitting on top of an enormous body. Now, in terms of articulation, there is a lot here. As before with Red, the head can look left and right and look up and down. You don't get any side-to-side tilt, unfortunately. That still doesn't change. Because you've got Gorilla's arms, you get the same forward and backward motion and in and out motion. It is a little impeded by the pink wings stuck to the top, but you can flip the wings up out of the way for better outward motion, and you can also rotate the gorilla legs backwards to kind of lift the wing section up out of the way to clear a path for more arm articulation. You also do get the bicep rotation, you get a slightly more than 90-degree elbow, and then because you've got ball-jointed wrists, they can rotate and wiggle up, down, left, right, any way you want. And you can also open the fingers, and there's a reason for that. You keep the same ratcheted waist swivel, and then the legs are the same that we saw with Red, with the one click forward, one click back, no outward motion. Thigh swivel that is normally either stock straight or way out to the side, but with the modification you can get one click kind of in between those two. You get the 90-degree knees, and then because of the way that yellow and black are constructed, you also get ankle tilts from side to side, but this is a thing I wasn't aware of at first. You can also actually tilt the legs forward at the ankle, which may seem silly at first, but it actually works really well if you want to do something like click the hips back one and then shift those ankles forward. it allows the combined mode to sort of take on one of those like semi-hero stance poses. And then when you include thigh swivel, like you don't want to do the full outward because the full outward will just face plant. But if you do the mod and are able to kind of go halfway, that also helps. And then of course you can angle the head down to give him more of a, one of those pelvic thrust forward heroic stances that we all love to do with our toys, right? Also, while you can't cheat the ratchets on the thigh swivels, you can cheat the ratchets on the forward and backward motion and the ratchets in the shoulders and bicep swivels for the arms. So if you want to do something slightly between the detents, because the detents are rather spread out, you totally can. Now, in terms of why those fingers open, we need to talk about the accessories, which are the swords. So we can just pop those out of the gorilla feet, and there are little slots on the handles facing outward. So you want to have them matched up with their appropriate fists. And there are tabs on the insides of the palms. So you just line up the swords with the tabs, peg them in, and then close the fists around. And that gives Don Onitaijin his swords. And you put that together with the various points of articulation in this figure, and you got a surprisingly dynamic, definitely uncharacteristically dynamic Sentai mech that you can put on display, and it looks really cool. This is really cool. This set definitely has its limitations, definitely has some things that could have been possibly handled a little better, but that also probably would have made it cost even more. But for what it is very cool. And I know a lot of people have already noted that you've got some posts on the back of the hip skirts and some clips underneath the feet, so it's like this thing's definitely going to combine in some fashion with at least one other mech. That'll be interesting to see. Fingers crossed there are no parts left over, because if there are no parts left over and it looks cool, then I'm totally going to get that and do like a fully combined thing. We'll see what happens, but this as a standalone set is very cool. I'm very glad I got this. I wish it wasn't as difficult to track down, because apparently everyone wants one, because it's, the first DX Sentai mech that can actually pose. But I am glad I managed to get it. And hopefully, if any of you are out there looking for one of these, you're able to find it. But that is enough about what I think of DX Don Onitaijin. What do you all think of this set? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you everybody for watching, and remember, art is more than meets the eye.